All right, so I don't know how many, Cheryl or Dr. Saunders, what, you've seen, but everybody right now is talking about protein. Protein is the talk of the town on social media. You see all these ads for it. Protein, protein, protein. How much do you need? When should you eat it? Are you getting enough? All of the questions. But I know that a lot of the information out there that's circling can be confusing at best, and actually can be just plain wrong. So today we wanted Dr. Saunders to really dive into that and separate the real science from the social media noise so that we know exactly what our bodies need as far as protein. But before we start, we do want to remind you that this webinar is for educational purposes and it's not intended as medical advice or to replace your doctor. So please make sure you're consulting with your personal physician before you make any changes to your diet or exercise or your supplement routine. So with that being said, all right, so Dr. Saunders, let's get into it. Protein is everywhere right now. People are putting it in their coffee, it's in our snacks. Of course, it's all over our social media feeds. Why do you think it's become such a hot topic? And do you think that this interest, is it backed by anything new in the science, or is this just like a trend that people are hopping on?
Okay, it's a trend. There's nothing particularly new. You can go back 100 years and look at research and they're going, oh yeah, high protein. And people were eating pounds of meat a day. It wasn't a small amount in diets in the early 1900s, late 1800s. Meat was a big part of the diet and a lot of protein, meat and eggs. And if you think about um, like with every meal, if you think about a good Midwestern breakfast, steak and eggs or something like that, or bacon and eggs, or cheese on it, and whatever else they had. There's protein has always been a big part. So what happened was that in the cereal era from the 1970s, when the cereal companies started saying, hey, actually, complex carbohydrates are really good for you, and protein and fat are not good for you. Well, they were saying fat, not protein, but a low fat diet kind of automatically puts you on a lower protein diet, right? So people are eating low protein and high carb, and these high carbohydrate diets don't allow people to get enough protein. So as time goes on, they get sarcopenia, which is low muscle mass. They get more weakness. Their hair gets thinner and straggly. Their skin gets thin, and so people started asking the question, well, how come we're seeing all these issues of sarcopenia and oh, it's because people aren't exercising enough, and yeah, that's definitely a part of it. But the thinning hair and the skin thinning and all that. Oh, that's a stress problem. Well, yeah, it could be that too. But it turns out that there's a lot of people with protein deficiencies. So a lot of nutritionists, nutrition schools, they're starting to do research on, well, what is enough protein anyway? And it turns out it's a lot more than people thought. An ideal amount of protein is somewhere around a gram of protein for every pound of fat, or for every kilogram, no, for every kilogram of body weight. So people are eating between 80 and 120 grams of protein a day. And if you think about that, gosh, 30 grams of protein for breakfast is a lot of protein. And I hardly ever eat that much. And so it's going to be what, 4 eggs plus cheese, you've got to have, and then a glass of milk. Okay, so then I'm getting my 30-ish grams of protein a day. But I don't usually eat that much. It's a lot to eat. Um, but a chicken breast is about 30 grams of protein and about the same size. Fish or beef would be about the same. So it's not that it's hard; it's that it's a lot to eat. Really interesting though. Protein is more important as we get older. So people can eat like vegan diets and do really well when they're younger, but as we get older, we don't digest those vegetable proteins nearly as well. Vegetable proteins are harder to digest for several different reasons. They're just not as bioavailable. They don't break down as easily. There's so many people that are gluten intolerant for various reasons, but why gluten? What's the big deal there? Well, gluten is a protein. That's what it is. And it turns out it's a protein that is not broken down very easily. So that protein, instead of being denatured and cut up into little pieces in the stomach, it goes whole into the small intestine, and the immune system goes, hey, that's not supposed to be there. That's a foreign protein, and starts attacking it and creates this chronic inflammation in the intestines. Why? Because you didn't break it down in the stomach like it's supposed to. The acid is supposed to denature the protein. But if you have low stomach acid, if you don't have enough enzymes, then it doesn't denature, it doesn't, so it stays and goes whole into into the small intestine, and then the immune system starts fighting it. So and that's a vegetable protein, right? And so the easier to digest proteins are actually meat, eggs, cheese, milk protein is pretty digestible. So yeah, so protein has become a thing because. So the answer to your question, long answer. The answer to your question is it's become a thing because of this high carb diet that's been going on for like 30 years, 40 years.
I'm glad you brought up the 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And that's what everybody's saying in social media. Is there any validity to that?
Yeah, yeah, there is. That's pretty when studies are done on, 10-gram protein diets, it's not enough. 20-gram protein diets, well, it's not enough. 30 grams, yeah, that's okay. 30 to 40 grams, that's really good. So you're talking about if you're doing 3 meals a day, you're looking at between 100 and 90 and 120, 130 grams of protein a day. So yeah, that's going to be about well, not per pound. It's like 1.4 grams per kilo, is what most of them are saying.
That's a lot of protein.
That is,
That's
I don't think I get that.
it. I definitely don't get that, especially
Mhm.
because I only eat 2 meals a day. So yeah, so
How do you
um,
Okay.
reconcile that then?
okay, that's a good question. That's a great question because I've researched that and looked at it, and there are ways around that. So the point is not that you need that many grams necessarily. It's that you need enough protein to stimulate the mechanisms that repair the protein in your body, like connective tissue and muscles and all that stuff. So what does that? Well, there's a hormone called mTOR, not a hormone, it's a gene that turns on that is a signal that turns on the mechanisms that we have for repairing your body. And if you don't eat enough protein, you don't turn it on. If you eat like 10 or 20 grams of protein, you don't turn it on. You need enough, especially an amino acid called leucine that's found abundantly in milk, by the way. So whey protein is a really good protein for turning that on, and you need like uh, 30 grams ish to get enough of that leucine to turn on that gene to repair and use the improve the protein mechanisms of your body.
Interesting. Okay, so here's another myth, fact or fiction. I've been seeing some are saying that eating too much protein can wreck your kidneys. What do you say to that?
Okay, good question, because there is some evidence for that, but really only if you have kidney failure for some other reason. So if you have autoimmune kidney disease, if you have polycystic kidney disease, if you have glomerulonephritis, inflammation of the kidneys, then a high protein diet does make a difference. It does uh, increase the rate at which you lose your nephrons, the filters in your kidneys. So, by itself, yes, a high protein diet can affect the kidneys in people who have kidney disease, but people who don't have kidney disease, that's not an issue. The other part of it is that if you have kidney disease, then um, all of that protein has to be broken down. Your liver is taking out the amino acids that are needed, and some of them are getting sent out, and everything that's left over, it's it's breaking down those amino acids, uh, taking off the nitrogen and using it for glucose to make sugar, and using it for other processes in the body, and then you have to get rid of those nitrogens, and that's the urea and creatinine and all the nitrogenous wastes that make urine.
You had mentioned earlier that that your body, as you age, does not metabolize the plant protein as well. So is plant protein incomplete? Like,
Yes.
can you get enough protein without actually eating beef, chicken,
Yes.
and so forth?
Speak to our viewers who may not eat meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, Plant protein is not as bioavailable, so you need more plant protein per amount of weight, and plants tend to have less protein. But there are some that are more bioavailable. Actually, something like tofu. There's the bean curds, things that are fermented, are actually more bioavailable because they're fermented. But the other part that you mentioned was complete. What does it mean? What does complete mean? I mean, a protein is a protein is a protein, right? Well, it turns out that plant proteins have certain amino acids. Um, so if you're eating like broccoli has as much protein as mother's milk by weight. So it's not that it's lacking protein. But there are certain amino acids that are not found in that protein in the broccoli. So then you pair that with beans or something like that. But grains have a lot of protein, but they're not complete, meaning we need, the 20 amino acids, we need those. And if you're missing one, then you're gonna not be able to make certain proteins. You're not going to be able to repair your body if you don't have all of the amino acids available all the time.
Hmm.
So the plant proteins are not complete proteins, so you have to pair them properly. So mixing a grain like rice with beans, that's a great way to get a complete protein. Um, and or yeah, a grain with beans with legumes. A grain legumes combination is a good complete protein. And looking for sources, different sources. So with plants, you need more variety in order to get the complete protein.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. All right, I've seen on social media people say that you need to eat protein within 30 minutes of exercise or you lose the benefit. Fact or fiction?
Okay, there's a reason they say that, but it's not exactly true. It has to be within 30 minutes. Um, yes, you want to exercise like because you want to turn on that mTOR gene to build your muscle, and so you do your heavy exercise, and you're literally tearing muscle fibers, and all that needs to be repaired. And the repair mechanism happens when you eat the protein, turn on the mTOR gene, and you start fixing that issue. And so they're saying, oh, you want to turn that on right away after you do the damage, so you don't just scar down your muscle and not actually get it repaired. Um, and while yes, you do want to get a high protein meal, I don't have any research to say it has to be 30 minutes, but Um, there is a reason for that way of thinking.
All right, so let's get down to brass tacks. How much do we actually need of protein per day per person?
Um, Protein per day per person. Well, somewhere around 100 grams of protein a day would be good. And as we age, we need more actually, and not less. And part of the aging process is not digesting and absorbing protein as well. So, in order to digest protein, you need a lot of acid. And people who have acid reflux and GERD and all this stuff, they actually make less acid, not more. Everybody says, "Oh, that's too much acid in your stomach. That's why you have acid reflux." No, no, they have low acid and they don't digest protein well because they don't have enough acid to denature the protein, so it can be cut up by the enzymes. So, adding something called betaine hydrochloride, I often do that with people who obviously have protein deficiency issues. Betaine hydrochloride is a an acid that when you take it in your stomach, it turns into hydrochloric acid that can help denature the proteins. And then the other part, it usually comes with pepsin or trypsin or both. These are the enzymes that cut up the protein. So, ideally, the system is set up so that you don't have whole proteins going into your small intestine, that your stomach has high acid and enzymes to take all the proteins that are in there, denature them, which means they're all folded up. It unfolds everything and makes them one chain of amino acids so that the enzymes can get to the chain and go cut, 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 cut into small peptides, which are short chains of amino acids. And those short chains of amino acids can then go down into the small intestine, and then they get cut up by protease enzymes into their individual amino acids that can be absorbed into your body. So you don't people say you are what you eat. If you eat eggs, you are not an egg. You have zero egg proteins in your body. If you eat a chicken, you are not a chicken. You have zero chicken proteins in your body. That all those proteins are cut up into their individual amino acids, and then every single protein you have, from your hair to your toenails, is your own proteins, and they're made by you and only by you, and they're unique to you, and you're the only one that has that protein. And it's identifiable as your protein, and nobody else in the world has that one. We're kind of cool when you think about it, right? We're such individuals.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So, are there certain health conditions or diseases that might change the amount of protein a person would need? More,
Oh,
less,
yes,
or okay. What would those be?
absolutely. Yeah, so people that have something called cystic fibrosis, for example, their digestion is just messed up. They don't they don't get enzymes produced properly, and so they need to take digestive enzymes, betaine hydrochloride. They need to be able to digest protein because they will just have less and less and less, and over time. And people who take acid reducers have to be really careful. Those acid blockers, do you know, the FDA has only approved them for 2 weeks. And I have people who come in and say, "Oh yeah, I've been taking this for years," and they block not just the acid but also the enzymes that are produced to be able to digest protein well. So you decrease protein digestion by doing that, and you also, by the way, decrease absorption of divalent cations like magnesium and calcium. And so it's kind of important to not take those acid reducing pills for a long period of time. That's really not a good idea for your digestion. Um, Other problems, there are people who have hypochlorhydria, which is just low stomach acid, and they don't make intrinsic factor, and they don't absorb vitamin B12, and they don't digest proteins well. And so some people need digestive enzymes to be able to get the protein they need. Um, the really serious ones, they become a big problem in childhood. So you wouldn't become an adult if you really couldn't digest and absorb proteins.
All right, I want to ask a different, I guess, the question about protein and weight loss. Like, is it true you need to eat more protein to lose weight? Because they often say count your macros. If if your goal weight is to be you're 180, you want to get down to 150, you eat the protein for the 150 weight.
That's a great question because that goes with the very first question is this just a fad or what? Because part of the fad today is when I was saying about the carbs, we have this high carbohydrate diet for years and everybody's getting fatter and fatter and fatter. They're like, what the heck? Because carbs don't, they don't go they don't stop you from being hungry very well. Like you can eat cold cereal and eat more cold cereal and eat more cold cereal and you can just take in the carbs and just keep eating things like donuts and pastries and stuff like that. You can just keep eating. You don't have a good stop mechanism for that. Whereas driving the Interstate 40 from California going across the country to Arkansas, there were like several restaurants that says that if you can finish our steak, you can have it for free because protein you take in so much and you just can't, you're done. You just can't eat anymore. And even people with really big stomachs, they get this 20-ounce steak and they get 10 or 15 ounces in and they're done. They can't eat it. So then they have to pay for the whole thing. Yes, protein makes you feel full better. It slows down stomach emptying. Um, and so that's the GLP-1 benefit, right? That's what people are injecting for to slow down. Well, if you eat protein, you get all that benefit. Number one, you get satiation, where your uh, hypothalamus is saying, okay, we're done. We got enough. And your stomach slows down. That's where eating a high protein meal is going to stop you from gaining weight because number one, you're not going to produce as much insulin. And then your stomach doesn't empty as fast, so you can be done.
Mm. Yeah, I made a chicken and rice dinner last night and my husband took leftovers. And so when I opened up my lunch, it was all rice. He took all the chicken. So I had rice for lunch and I was hungry like 30 minutes later.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are some symptoms of not getting enough protein? You said like stringy hair. Should anybody be concerned if they see XYZ symptoms?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. It's not like stringy hair. The hair gets thinner and the strands get thinner. And that doesn't mean like you're balding, you're thinning. I mean like the strand themselves get thinner. That's wispy kind of hair. That would be more like it, or frizzy or that kind of thing. So those kinds of changes in the hair. I look at fingernails. The fingernails should be strong. And if you have really your nails are breaking all the time or they're really thin and they bend really easily, then that's an indication that it could be a protein deficiency. There's other reasons for it. So if you're not getting enough oxygen, for example, in your fingertips, people that have congestive heart failure, other reasons for having nail problems, lung problems can do that. So, but if you look at overall the thinning of the skin, the thinning of the nails, and the thinning of the hair, those are good kind of indicators to say that there's a protein problem, digestion, absorption, or utilization in some way.
Okay. We've got some really good questions coming in the Q&A. Cynthia has a quick one here. She wanted to know, would the Healthy Gut product, our Healthy Gut Restore that we have, help with what you were just talking about with the acid and breaking down the protein in the elderly?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's part of the reason that we formulated it was for better digestion of protein. So yes, it has enzymes, prebiotics, probiotics, and helps with aids with digestion.
Okay. All right. We will make sure we share the link to that product as well as the discount code Saunders 25, so you can save 25%. All right. Cheryl, go ahead.
Yes. What about, David asks, what about the sources of protein in their amino acid balance? Do we need 10 or so different amino acids that we can't make?
Yes, yeah. Those essential amino acids they're called. If you don't get them, then if you don't get them from your diet, you can't make them. So you have to get them from your diet. And so what I do a test on amino acids on most of my patients, and I look at them. What are your amino acid levels? And specifically those essential amino acids, because that tells me a lot about their digestion and absorption. When I have somebody recently, I had somebody all of their essential amino acids were on the low, either deficient or low side, like all of them all the way down. So it's like, yeah, you have a protein digestion absorption problem. And then some of them they're like all over the place, and that's not a general protein digestion absorption problem. So the other part that you mentioned was what about those in the foods, those essential amino acids? They have to come from your food. So you have to get them. And that's why, like, if you're vegan or vegetarian, pairing is good. So for vegetarians, eggs, complete protein, they're fine. Milk, complete protein, fine. And not an issue there. But for vegans, you have to be really careful and pair your meals properly so that you can get the full essential amino acids.
Okay, very good. All right. All right, so we've got someone here in the chat trying to figure out what you said about with how much they, so maybe we can help. Let's help. All right, so Trisha said, I'm not sure if I did this correct. I'm 120 pounds, so do I divide that by 1.4? That equals 85.71. So a 120-pound person needs about 83, roughly 84 grams of protein. Is that right?
That's about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you did it right, Trisha. Good math there.
Hmm. How
Yeah.
do you balance fiber and protein?
Um, uh, I don't know that you balance it so much as you eat fiber and you eat protein. A lot of things with protein don't have fiber. So meat, for example, eggs, that kind of thing. And then what about fiber? Well, have your vegetables. So, have your meat and vegetables, and whole grains. And so if you're doing a complete diet, if you're having a protein and vegetables and grains, and then maybe fruit for snacks, then you're going to get fiber too.
All right. Question from Joe. As someone who is trying to do a ketogenic diet, can you explain how eating too much protein can lead to gluconeogenesis?
Okay. Um, the the metabolism of a body is complex. It's not a simple thing. If I eat sugar, I burn sugar. If I eat proteins, I burn protein. If I eat fat, I burn fat. If I eat sugar and fat together, I'll burn the sugar and store the fat. Yeah, to some extent that's true. But gluconeogenesis is the ability for the liver to take protein and create glucose. And the protein, the primary one, is an amino acid called glutamine. Um, So, the amino acid is made into sugar, so your sugar can go up, and people are going, I didn't need any sugar. What the heck? I'm on a ketogenic diet and zero carbs, and my sugar spikes every time I eat. Well, if you're eating a lot of protein, then all the protein that you're not using at that moment is available to be made into sugar, glucose. So and the liver can do that. So and that depends on a lot of things. Mostly, interestingly, some people, and I've had cases of this. Some people are really sensitive to protein and that they make a lot of insulin. And if your insulin goes up when you eat protein, then you're going to do gluconeogenesis because insulin will prevent you from using fat for energy. So your only other option is sugar. And so your protein has to be made into sugars because you can't burn fat because you have high insulin levels. So people with insulin resistance, and then every time they eat, the insulin goes up, even if they're not eating carbs, because protein stimulates insulin too. And some people just have a wild response. And we know those differences. That's, genetic differences. And there are groups of people in the United States, American Indians, that have 80% diabetes rate because they just make a whole bunch of insulin. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it. These are people who have periods of starvation where they don't have anything for a while. And so the higher the insulin you have, the more you're storing fat. It tells you store fat, store fat, store fat. So then, you're the one that's going to outlast the famine if you're the guy that stored the most fat, and if your insulin is the highest. So, it makes sense, but those are genetic differences. So in some cases, I've had people who have had to fast for a few days to get into ketosis because every time they ate protein, they would just do gluconeogenesis. Their blood sugar would go up, their insulin would go up, and then they could never get into ketosis.
The body is so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, here's a really good comment. I just want to shout this one out that came in on the chat it was from Frank or Pat, one of the two. 2 years and 69 days on Dr. Saunders' program. A1C 4.9. Started April of 26 is when I think it was probably checked. So good job. I love to
Good
hear
job.
that. Yes, good job.
4.9, that is like perfect.
What was it
Yes.
Like it doesn't,
before? Oh,
I
sorry.
yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Put that in the chat for us, Frank. What was the before? All right. And then Sib asked this question ahead of time out in our Facebook group. Sib says, I read that it's beneficial to get at least 40 grams of protein in your first meal of the day. The remainder of the day's requirements can be accumulated throughout the day. Is this true?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, um, when you start the day, the cortisol from your adrenal glands spikes like 100 times what it is, at night. And that's your circadian rhythm, right? So in the morning, by 8 o'clock in the morning, your cortisol is like way up there. And that's the switch that turns on everything. Everything is turning on from that. Dr. Sachin Panda wrote a great book on this called The Circadian Code. And he explains in there how they did research looking for, well, what genes turn on from this. And it's like hundreds, it's lots of genes are turning on in the morning so that you can digest better, so that you can absorb better, so that you can detox better. Everything works better at 8 o'clock in the morning. The really odd thing is that because the glucose spikes and makes you a little resistant to insulin, and then your blood sugar goes up, and people in the morning, they usually say, I'm not hungry. And so they don't eat in the morning, and that's actually the best time. So that 40 grams of protein turns on your mTOR, that then turns on all the repair mechanisms and all the protein storage mechanisms, so that you can use the protein instead of just taking off the nitrogen part and making glucose out of it. You could actually use it as protein in your body. So yeah, there's some research that shows that's a good idea.
Okay. So when you fast and you're breaking the fast, so if you're doing the intermittent fasting, then you want to stop your eating for the day much earlier. I think a lot of people do it differently. Like they'll not eat until the evening or until later. They'll go as long as they can without eating, and then they start then they start to eat, and then they fast until that next day. So it would be better if you eat your big meal in the morning if you're doing the intermittent, and then start your fast after that. And
Right.
fast most of the day. Is that what I guess, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And then if you're eating those 40 grams of protein at the first meal of the day, you know what? You're not going to be hungry the rest of the
Yeah.
day. Whereas if you eat a cold cereal or something, then
Yeah.
you're going to be like, I got to eat something.
Yes. Okay, Frank followed up back in the chat. He was the one that just said he'd been on for a couple years. He started 2 years ago. He was at 6.9 post-stroke 23. Started phase one of the diabetes solution kit. It was Pat, May of 24. So that has worked very well.
It takes a
Wow.
while for your body to adjust. That was 2 years, but he did
Yeah.
it. That's the important part.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I have another question that came in ahead of time from Fred. I think his last name is Caliente. He is new to all this. He's been a diabetic for about 2 years. He had three quadruple open heart surgery in 2021. He's currently 87 and active, and his cardiologist told him these few things: not to drink coffee unless it's decaf and with one package of Splenda. At lunch and dinner, to drink soda that is either zero, like a zero soda, or with artificial sugar. And if I'm not to use artificial sugar in coffee or in cooking, what do I use?
Okay. That's a great question. So let's look at it in terms of toxicity and what's going on. So, what you want to do is to normalize your metabolism so that you can use carbohydrates normally, sugar, and then fats normally, fat, and then instead of making your protein into sugar, you want to be able to keep it on your body and make muscles and keep your strength up and all that. So you want that metabolism to be all normal. If you have high insulin, Dr. Jason Fung wrote a book on this. It's a pretty good analysis of why this happens. Insulin is the problem. So insulin is the problem with all of those metabolic things, like using protein for sugar. That's a insulin thing. Storing fat and just getting fat and not being able to use it. That's a insulin thing. And then insulin resistance, having the sugar go up. That's an insulin thing. So this is all an insulin problem. So having explained that, if you eat artificial sugars, if you're using the Splenda in your coffee, that will stimulate the pancreas to produce insulin. And so you create or at least progress or uh, you don't make it better. Your insulin resistance is going to remain as long as you're using artificial sweeteners. So your question for me is, what do I do or what do I use? The answer is nothing. The answer is don't eat anything sweet. Don't eat any sweet fruits. So the fruits that you eat are avocado, tomato, cucumber, pickles, um, things that bell peppers, things that aren't sweet, that don't have a lot of sugar. are good kinds of fruits to eat. Artificial sweeteners, avoid them completely. Just avoid them. They're not good for you in any way. They're toxic in a lot of other ways, but they also stimulate insulin and prevent you from getting normal again, having normal metabolism.
And it's kind of all about retraining our taste buds too, isn't it? We are just so used to sweet, sweet,
Uh,
sweet.
I know. I roll my eyes because I love sweet.
I know, I do too.
Same.
Yeah, I know. I love my coffee, but I want my sweetened cream in it, Otherwise, I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't want my coffee.
yeah.
Forget it. All right. Joyce has a question. Joyce said, until I can get my family doctor to reduce my metformin, can I begin with berberine and CinnaChroma and Nervala?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's a good idea. Before you even get off metformin, you can immediately begin berberine and CinnaChroma and Nervala. Nervala, if you have neuropathy of some kind or you're concerned about it or having any symptoms of it. So yes, the answer is yes. Absolutely. Get started on that first. And then as you're doing the program, remember it's not the supplements that make you better. Always, rarely they do. Mostly it's the diabetes solution kit. So if you're following the program, as your blood sugar comes down, then you tell your doctor, I'm really worried about low blood sugar. I think I should go off the metformin because I might get hypoglycemia. And then that's the way to handle that.
Okay. Yeah. I've been knee deep up into my eyeballs with the diabetes solution kit. We told you, I don't know, maybe a month or 6 weeks ago that we were working on a new edition of that, and just rereading all of that has been really beneficial to me. But it's about the lifestyle change, and working through that is where you're going to actually see the differences. So, all right, Cheryl, did you have a question ready to go?
Yes, from an anonymous attendee. Are you familiar with the Firefly scan to kill parasites, bacteria, and viruses that is far more accurate than doing stool collections, which often give one false result since the parasites go into hiding and only come out to lay their eggs around the full moon? These critters are killed. With a special scanner on the day of treatment in the organs when they are located. I think that's the Firefly scan. Have you heard of that before?
I have not. I'm not familiar with the Firefly scan. I don't know what it scans. Um,
Fireflies. Parasites.
That would be nice.
All right. Well, maybe we'll have to circle around this question another time.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
Absolutely.
we don't know the answer to this one, but we're honest about it.
Hmm.
What do
All
you
right.
think about parasites in general? There's a big parasite scare going around the nation.
We're
Yeah.
having a webinar on parasites coming up 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, parasites are a thing. And some people react to them and some people don't. Um, it's People have parasites, but for many years, doctors have been told, "Oh, in the United States, nobody has parasites, and so don't even bother." And then if you do a stool test, like he said, if you do a stool test and it comes up negative, no, you don't have any parasites. That is not a rule out test. That is a rule in test. If you have like a current diarrhea and you want to know if it's a parasitic diarrhea, then test might be positive. But like they said, like whoever the Firefly scan, those tests, you have to do several tests to see, and then even that only gives you a percentage probability of finding it because parasites are not being secreted by the body all the time. They can be there and not be active and not be putting out ova or parasites that can be found.
Is it true they only come out on the moon phase?
It's not just with phases of the moon. People have said that a lot. It's that they have a cycle. They go through a life cycle, and so yeah.
All right. Back to you, Jody.
All right, I'm going crazy in the chat here. Sorry. All right, so we've been hearing a lot about this too. Joyce is bringing up the Ceylon cinnamon, 7,200 milligrams, being talked about a lot on Facebook, etc. How does this compare to CinnaChroma? So I know we're careful with the kind of cinnamon we use. Can you talk a little bit about that, Dr. Saunders?
Yes. But yeah, because there's two main types of cinnamon, and the Ceylon cinnamon has less of the a blood thinner in it. It's a better choice because what needs to be done is a concentrated solution. You would have to take like tablespoons of cinnamon, ground cinnamon, to get the amounts you need that will actually improve your blood sugar. So a water extract of Ceylon cinnamon, and we have a 10x a solution which is so much better than the 750 milligram of powdered cinnamon that's being used. So I think our formulation is better for that reason because I've seen other formulations where they don't have the concentrated, the 10x concentrate. They're just using powdered cinnamon. And frankly, it's probably not very effective at all.
All right, Michelle asks, what is the difference between plasma therapy versus stem cells? What is the benefit of plasma therapy and its success rate?
Okay, so um, plasma is the fluid part of the blood. And when you separate, you take the cells out, and then the fluid part is what's left, and that's the plasma. So they're not injecting anything that has any cellular debris or any cells when they're doing that. So those kinds of therapies, they're injecting your own plasma, just they're spinning out the cells and then taking the plasma off and injecting that. Um, uh, the most commonly they use what's called PRP, platelet-rich plasma, which means there's platelets in there that are still in there. So they've spun down, taken all the red blood cells out and the white blood cells, and they're injecting platelet plasma in there. And the platelets are the things when they stick together, they release inflammatory mediators that initiate the processes of healing. So that's the idea of platelet-rich plasma, is to bring in fibroblasts into the area and initiate healing. Stem cells is entirely different. That doesn't even use the same type of process. The stem cells, the idea is you're taking out these progenitor cells that could become, like, let's say you're injecting a knee. So these progenitor cells can become chondrocytes, which are the cells that restore the cartilage in the knee. And if that's the case, then and they become chondrocytes, then they can start making cartilage, and then you can actually repair the damage that's been done. And that's been shown in a lot of studies they've done in dogs where they actually tie off an artery in the heart. And so that part of the heart dies, and we know once it's dead, it's gone. And then they untie it and they inject stem cells directly into that artery, going to that area of the heart, and the dog makes a new heart, like new cells. It's like these stem cells are actually made into new cells. And what's really interesting, when they biopsy it, they don't see a 5-year-old dog heart. It's like brand spanking new newborn heart. Yeah, it's like good. So the idea of stem cells and the plasma therapy, platelet-rich plasma, are completely different. One is creating inflammation to stimulate healing. The other one is where you don't have the cells, like the cells are dead in the area, and you want to initiate cellular repair.
Fascinating. Oh my goodness, so fascinating. Okay, so here's another one in the Q&A. Anonymous says, Dr. Saunders, what's the quickest way of getting your A1C down? I was doing cortisone shots, but that was 2 months ago. I started trying to fast, but once I eat something with any kind of sugar, my sugar goes up. I stopped using my insulin because I found it causes breast cancer in women. I've just been diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm confused. Right now, I'm just using Berberine. I'm told to eat beans, fiber, fruit, but it raises my sugar. This is what's
Okay.
going
So
on.
your question was, how do you get, what's the fastest way to get your A1C down? Okay. So I had somebody whose A1C was 7.9, which is really high. He was on two medications for diabetes. Well, actually three if you count the diuretic. And then three other medications for blood pressure. His blood pressure was high. And he essentially asked me the same question, but how do I get off these medications was really what he wanted. And he fasted and he just used fat, drank water. For 20 days, he drank water and then he started on bone broth, just drinking bone broth for another 20 days. He lost about 40 pounds and his hemoglobin A1C in that 40 days came down to 5.6, which is non-diabetic. And that's kind of amazing. And he's off all his medications. So that's the fastest way I've seen a hemoglobin A1C drop. I've never seen anyone, even other people fasting, I haven't seen them drop their hemoglobin A1C that well. Because usually the people who have had this for many years, their set point is really high. But your issue is that you were taking a steroid, and the steroid hormone causes insulin resistance, and so you have this insulin resistance. And the other benefit of fasting is that it lowers insulin and it also lowers the adrenal output. So you get initial rise in the adrenal when you're fasting, and then it drops down and creates a reset. And that takes about 3 days. So if you were to do um, 3 days of fasting and check your urine to make sure you're making ketones because sometimes you can go into the fourth day if you have diabetes. And be careful if you're taking any medications because that can drop your blood sugar too low. And yes, the insulin definitely, you're not taking that, so that's a good thing. Um, so that would be good. The other way that's not quite as your question was what's the fastest way? So that's the answer to your question. But a lot of people go, well, I can't do that. So then your next would be to get the diabetes solution kit, start on page 1, and just answer all the questions and go through the kit and look at the shopping list and then make your own shopping list and go to the store and only buy those things and actually do the program.
And I just want to, before we say goodbye, the anonymous attendee who asked about the Firefly scan, said
Yeah.
that's an upgrade from the Rife machine.
Oh, yeah, that's the F scan. Okay, I didn't recognize the Firefly scan. Okay, so the F scan. Let's see. You have the cylinder. I went to somewhere with Joe once. We were talking about this. So the frequencies of parasites, bacteria, and then it tells you what frequencies you have and which parasites correspond to those frequencies. Um, and then there's supposed to be, if you use the Rife machine, then you can use that to get rid of the parasites. So I don't have enough experience with it, and I don't know any research on it to be able to tell you if that works or not. The F machine is it's the new Rife machine. You have this like a cylinder like what is
Based off
it?
of frequencies, like you
Yeah,
said.
some kind of electrode that you're holding on to. Yeah.
Yeah. And it runs through the body. It pulses different frequencies based on what issues are presenting, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just for parasites, it's actually
Yeah.
for all kinds of things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Saunders, for all the great information today. We had a lot of really, really good questions. We did not get to all of our questions, but come on back and we will definitely try and get to them the next time. So thank you, Dr. Saunders. We will see
Thank
You.
you
you.
next time.
Okay, bye.
All right. And with that being said, next week on Wednesday, we will not be here because our team is actually going to be traveling and getting together and doing some work behind the scenes. So we will not be back until 2 weeks from today, and that we are going to have that webinar on parasites. Like Cheryl was
Ooh,
saying, Parasite, oh my word, there's so much information and crazy stories out there about parasites. There's some true stuff, there's some not true stuff. I know lots of people hear about parasites and diabetes, parasites, cancer. Dr. Saunders is excited to talk about all of that. So,
I'm
Cheryl, would
excited to listen.
yes. Would you share in the chat the number? Someone was having trouble with an order in the
Oh,
Q&A. So I shared the support email, but would you put the customer support phone number in the just the general chat?
well,
That would be fabulous. All right. And then, okay, so let's see. If you are here actually, and you have found us on YouTube and you are watching a replay, we are very happy that you're here. We would love for you to join us live if you would like to. So all you need to do is go to bartonwebinar.com and you can fill out just a quick little registration. Takes about 20 seconds, and then you'll get an email each week that will come from Zoom about an hour before the webinar. It's got that link in there, and then you can come join live and you can ask your questions. So we would love for you to be able to do that as well. And then also, if you want to join us out on the Facebook community, I will drop that in the chat. You can submit your questions there ahead of time. That way you are sure that it gets asked. Also, I have been trying to post about the topics and we do some follow-up, all kinds of things out there. Somebody in the chat, I don't remember who it was, said they wanted to see more photos from Joe and Dr. Saunders' cruise. So maybe we can get some more of them out there for you to see and all of that. So, all right, Cheryl, did you have anything you were dropping in the chat you wanted to talk about today?
no, just we weren't invited on that cruise.
I know, I know. We tried really hard to catch a quick flight and said, we'll do the webinar from Alaska. I mean, I'm flexible. I'm quite flexible. I certainly could have handled that. All right, let's get our winner for today. Let's see. Let me share my screen here. All right, so the question was, what did Dr. Saunders talk about 2 weeks ago? What were the two simple nutrients? And we had a few answers, and I drew a name from the correct one. The answer, he talked about selenium and iodine. So, Beverly Bell, good job. You are going to win 2 bottles of CinnaChroma. So, if you would connect with me and if you would email me at webinar@bartonpublishing.com and just send me your shipping information. I will get that shipped out to you right away. So you can try CinnaChroma if you have not. If you are taking it already, then you're going to get 2 bottles on the house. So good job with that.
I wanted to just point out to answer a question that someone put in the Q&A. Will taking vinegar prior to a meal be beneficial to prevent acid reflux? Yes, that's true. If you take apple cider vinegar, that does add more digestion to your stomach. Now, if you don't like apple cider vinegar, it is quite tart. We do have lean ACV, which is lean
Mhm.
apple cider vinegar, which does bring in some of those healthy acids into your stomach without having to take a shot of something that's very potent.
Mhm.
So maybe you wrap up, I'll put that link in the chat for
Yes, that
everybody.
would be great. Yep. And I'm just putting that link there for bartonwebinar.com. If you are watching us on YouTube, watching that replay, and you want to join us live, there is your registration information right there. So, all right. Well, remember, we will not be here next week, but the following week, we will definitely be here. We'll be talking about those parasites. In the meantime, head on out to the YouTube channel. All of the webinars that we come from Dr. Saunders, we record them and they are all posted out there. So you can continue on with everything next week. Just choose a topic and maybe it's one you missed in the past and just jump on in and enjoy. So we look forward to seeing you all, though, back here again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. Bye, all.
All right. Bye bye.